Evening and welcome. Tonight is Monday, August 26th, 2019. This is the regular City Council meeting for the City of St. Peter. It is 7 o'clock p.m. We would all call the meeting to order. Would all please join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone should have a copy of the agenda. Are there any changes or corrections to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
All in favor of the agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Next, we have the minutes from our August 12th, 2019 meeting. Those minutes appear on pages 4 through 7. Are there any changes or correction to those minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve. Second.
All in favor of the minutes as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Next, we'll address visitors. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the council on any agenda item? Seeing no one, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the council on any matter whatsoever? Seeing no one, we'll move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda begins in detail on page 8 and concludes with the resolution on page 25 and includes the following budgeted purchase in excess of $10,000 to B&B Commercial Coating for a sand, vapor blast, and recoat for 100 fire hydrants for $10,500. Following license applications, temporary gambling to the St. Peter Lions for 800 College Avenue for October 29th, 2019. Temporary soft drink, temporary show license to Rock Bend Folk Festival for Minnesota Square for September 7th and September 8th, 2019. We have the following surplus property and direct staff to dispose of a 2015 Dodge Charger, plus the regular schedule of disbursements for August 8th, 2019 through August 21st, 2019. Are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Any questions now, comments? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Mayor Zeman?
Aye.
Councilmember Plumey?
Aye.
Councilmember Pfeiffer?
Aye.
Councilmember Grahams?
Aye.
Councilmember Paris?
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved. Next, we have unfinished business, in which we have none. So we will move to new business. And first up tonight, we have the Housing Program Loan Policy and Procedures. And we have Russ here and Judd?
Yep.
I'm sorry, for some reason I just lost it. But if you can introduce yourself when we get to you, that would be great.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, you're here tonight to consider adopting certain policies and procedures related to a housing rehab grant that you'd been awarded. Last November we made application, and in February we made final application, and you've been notified you've received $598,500 in Small Cities Development Program funds to assist owner-occupied housing rehab programs in a targeted area town, generally along the Front Street area and in that part of the St. Peter. The homeowners that would access the funds have to be income eligible. You've agreed to match the $598,500 with $100,000 of local funds which are reserved for housing activities, which are on deposit. You've agreed that the city portions of the housing rehab loans would be repaid at 0% interest on an installment basis. You've also agreed, or seem to agree, that the Small Cities Development Fund monies would be provided at 0% interest and then would be forgiven to the borrower. There are, as I said, a number of policies and procedures that you are required to adopt before we can request that the funds be released. Those are included on a resolution on page 84. And Mr. Mayor, with your approval, I'll turn it over to Judd and he can walk you through some of those programs.
All right.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Judd Schultz, and I'm the Housing Director at Minnesota Valley Action Council. So we worked with the city in writing the grant with the assistance of city staff, and then we will administer the grant for the city. The money that you're receiving, the $598,500, also provides the administrative funds to run the program, so the city is not paying for any of that. It comes out of the grant funds. As Russ said, the small cities money will be done on a 10-year deferred loan, 0% interest, which means the household doesn't pay any monthly payments on that, and there's no interest, but a lien is put on their property for a period of 10 years. If they sell, sign, or transfer that home anytime within that 10 years, or before that 10 years is up, those funds will be repaid to the city, and those go into a revolving fund. But if the household lives there for 10 years, that will be forgiven, but the city's contribution will be done on that installment monthly loan payment, which equates to roughly $42 a month. We do have, our target area does encompass the floodplain area in the city of St. Peter, but we have clarification from Department of Employment and Economic Development that administers these funds for the state, that as long as the structure is not located in the floodplain, we can rehab that structure. And so I think literally it's maybe 2 properties that affects. So otherwise we'll be able to address most of those households. In order to write the grant, we did a survey, and that survey, people that responded to that survey that indicated that they were interested and they appeared to be income eligible, those folks will get first crack at the funds. That's who we will target our marketing to in the primary target area, and we'll stay with them for about a year, and if we still need households, then we'll move to the secondary target area. And then we'll stay with them for about 6 months, and if we still need households, then we'll open it up to anybody in either of the target areas. And so that's how we'll approach the marketing of it. The policies that you have before you, we went over them at a workshop. Basically, they're required for you to get the money. So we went over them. Probably the big 3 are the fair housing policy, which we need to have a fair housing plan and do a fair housing activity each year. The second big one would be the excessive use of force policy. HUD has essentially gone to just verbiage that they want the city to approve, and we say that that policy is in place for this program. And then the last one is not necessarily a policy, but it's the drug-free workplace certification that the mayor signs, just indicating that the city is saying, yes, we follow drug-free workplaces with a listing of all your city locations. And so I know I went over these pretty quickly when we had them. I gave you copies of all. Is there any questions on any of the policies?
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Yeah.
Could you explain the notice of intent to request release of funds and waiting period and who has the opportunity?
Yeah. So
That was going to be my question.
So part of this process is we have to do an environmental review, which means we have to basically check a number of websites regarding coastal properties, regarding possibly how we're going to affect farmland, noise, places that may be waste sites per MPCA, and we have to gather all this information and document it, and then we have to seek comment from lots of different agencies, Minnesota Department of Transportation. We have to contact all the tribal entities and allow them to weigh in on it. And then what we do is we have to publish that. We have to publish that the city is requesting a release of these funds from deed so we can do this project, and that we've gone through all this environmental work, and that information was available to review at MVAC. And we have to post that or publish it, depending on if you post or publish. The city publishes, so we publish that for 10 days. And then we send all that information up to deed, and then they post it for 15 days. And once they get through that, if there are no comments, then they can release funds to us. And there will be a form that they fill out and return to us, and then that means we can start spending money on rehab. But until we get through that environmental process, we can't spend any money. So the floodplain was an issue with the environmental review. So we went back and forth with deed on some of that, and it worked out to how we wanted it to work out.
I will, Mr. Mayor, note that your notice of intent was published last Thursday in the Herald, so that 10-day has started ticking already.
Okay. That actually was going to be my question. So what happens now? Do you follow up with people that have expressed interest, or if we approve this tonight, or is there another process that they need to do?
Essentially, yes. If upon approval of this resolution with all these policies, we will actually then start, probably after Labor Day, we'll start the marketing process to the households on the interested and eligible list in the primary target area. We can't spend any rehab money until that environmental process is complete, but that will be completed in the next couple of weeks. We'll work with local contractors as much as we can. They recently, DEED recently reduced the requirements for contractors as far as the lead licensing, so we're doing some direct contact to contractors in the area that they have to have their RRP certification from EPA to work on these loans. They don't have to have their lead license from the Department of Health, which is nice. So it opens up our contractor base. We try to use local contractors as much as we can. But yeah, after I'd say after Labor Day, we will start marketing to the households, and that will involve direct mail contact with an application package and information on what they need to return to us.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Roger?
The maximum administrative cost for this is $73,500. Is that, I'm reading that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was written into the grant. The grant allows up to 15% in admin, but I think in order to maximize the number of households we could use, we dropped that down to about 12. Ended up dropping that down to 12%. But that will pay for our services, and we will not come back to the city and ask for more. So we do it for what's in that grant.
Okay. Thank you.
Steve?
On page 36, it talks about the Historical Society review, and it goes through submitted documents. And then it says on the last sentence, any changes in the scope of the project requested by the State Historical Society officer will be initiated as part of the project. So what if that review requires the owner to acquire more debt or more expenses? Is that a standard kind of protocol in these kinds of programs?
Generally, when if we end up with a historically significant property, what that's going to mean is they're going to require that the improvements are done a certain way or certain materials are used. So the overall effect to the household would be either we do less of a project, we prioritize the money, so they have $25,000 in the grant money plus the $5,000 loan from the city. So what we would do is if they have no wherewithal to bring any money to the table, we would just prioritize the improvements at that point. Or if the household can provide more funds, we'll do whatever we can do then.
So have you run into this situation before?
We have not, probably in the last 15 years, we haven't ran into any historically significant properties. Generally, I'm trying to think, well, I shouldn't say it. In Waseca, we were doing a commercial project about 10 years ago. And in their downtown business they ran into some historically significant properties. And what the state was requiring basically made a couple of the building owners back out. So that could be that's the worst, is that the building owner would say, no, I don't want to do it, and then back out.
Okay.
Because with this money, we have to do that check.
All right. Thank you.
Anyone else? Russ, you have anything else to add? All right. There are no other questions? The resolution establishing the 2019 Housing Rehab Loan Program policies and procedures appears on page 84. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved. Second.
Any more questions? Call the roll, please.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Member Cohen.
Aye.
Member Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Member Graham.
Aye.
Member Paris.
Aye.
Member Johnson.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Thank you, Judd.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
everybody.
Russ.
Sure.
Next up, we have a Tourism Bureau Administration contract modification. Todd.
Mayor and members, starting in your packet on page 85 is a memo and then a contract that follows, which is substantially similar to the agreement that you've had in place for a number of years with the Chamber of Commerce. As is indicated in the memo and on the overhead above, the Chamber of Commerce is contracted to provide the administrative support and grant administration for your lodging tax dollars, which are intended to provide enhancements, advertising assistance, and other finances towards projects that bring tourism to town. Typically, what that board does is it administrates between $25,000 and $35,000 in grants in any given year. And as an example, since Rock Bend's coming up, they might provide $1,000 or $2,000 to Rock Bend to enhance their advertising. We are looking for a modification based on a discussion that happened at a tourism board meeting a few months back. The tourism board has agreed that this makes sense. We have some more things that we're looking for the administrative services provider, in this instance the Chamber of Commerce, to provide. There's likely to be a little bit more revenue within that bucket based on a additional lodging tax receipts that we see through the Best Western Plus that we believe we'll see. And so this is something that is within those dollars and not something that's a drain on your general fund or cost your general fund additional dollars. The contract is included in your packet. Again, substantially similar, requires them to provide insurance, provide for the minutes, and really administer the grant program that's provided and determined solely on the basis of what the tourism board and the appointed members from you decide to spend dollars on. Happy to try and answer any questions. The Chamber of Commerce obviously is in favor of the additional resources coming their way. I have great confidence that it costs money to be able to administer those programs and provide for the operations of the board. Again, happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions? John?
A couple of years ago, we talked about something similar to this, and I asked about the annual budget that's supposed to be provided to the council and the quarterly financial reports, and I had said I hadn't seen any in 20 years. And are we seeing them now?
I hope that you are seeing them now, John. I have not provided one to you for probably the last 2 goal sessions, but I believe in your January goal session, I provided a report. I'll go back and check for sure, but I hope that I did. It was my intent to do that. I believe that we did.
Okay. So, but that's supposed to be quarterly.
It is supposed to be quarterly, and actually what we do see as a copy of the Tourism and Visitors Bureau minutes is a financial report each month for their meeting.
Okay.
Steve?
So let me rephrase that. There's not a separate quarterly report provided, since a report is provided on a monthly basis as a part of the documentation that's provided in advance of their meeting, John. So I have not hit them up to provide one on a quarterly basis, since they're doing it on a monthly basis.
Yeah, we go over that every month at the Tourism Bureau, but you haven't seen it.
Yes. So it would be that the council representatives see it.
They do, for sure.
But not the council as a whole.
Again, I believe the last time it was provided to you was a year end, and that would have been provided in January, I think. But I'll double check.
Now, Steve.
Yeah, this question could be addressed, I suppose, to members, Mr. Mayor, or to you, Mr. Pratke, but is the maximum dollar amount that the tourism board gives for any particular requested event still $2,000, or is it is? Okay.
Still 2,000.
All right.
We've been discussing maybe raising that a little bit. But,
Okay.
But right now it's 2,000.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions? Not the resolution approving execution of contract for administration of Tourism and Visitor Bureau services by the St. Peter Area Chamber of Commerce appears on page 90. Is there a motion for approval?
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Any more questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Quammen.
Aye.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Councilmember Grams.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Zine.
Aye. Resolution is approved. Next up, we have a donation acceptance from the estate of Lyle Bud Gilbertson. Todd?
Mayor, members, the information is included in your packet on page 91. As you may recall, under the city rules, any donation, whether it's cash or assets, greater than $7,500 require council approval. So from a process standpoint, it requires your approval. Your recreation director and I and your city attorney had met with the estate folks from Bud Gilbertson, and Bud had bequeathed approximately $82,000. And what's included in your memo and in the resolution outlines the major issues, which are, and it's important to understand Bud's story. As we understand Bud's story through his nephew Mark, he really appreciated athletics within the community and wanted to make sure that all kids had an opportunity to play and participate. And so this is given within that light. And so it's for youth sports activity scholarships sponsored through the city. It's important to note that he also provided funds to the school district. So these would just be for city-sponsored programs. It would be administered on a needs basis, that the distribution would follow the same process used by the city for other scholarships that you have in place currently. So we don't have to develop a new system, so to speak, to provide for use of these funds. It would be available to any resident within the school district. It was important to him that that would be the case. As you know, within some of your city programs, we have folks from all over the place that provide, but it would be limited to those within the city and in a little bit larger geographic area within the school district, and that it wouldn't supplant current funding that you have in place. So you wouldn't take money out of the fund that's in place currently for other things and then just use this money. It would be in addition to the resources that you have currently. That's what was agreed to with his nephew, and that's what's included within the resolution. It's a fantastic gift. I would mention, and I know Jim can follow suit with this, that we believe that the value of the gift is actually more than $82,000 today. It will be valued at the time that the assets are sold, that the investment is sold and comes to you. So it's certainly more than $82,000 in today's dollars, or actually Friday's dollars. It could have changed today. But what a wonderful gift. I don't recall a time when I've been here that we've received a gift for this type of purpose in this program for this amount of money. So a very, very kind gift on behalf of Bud Gilbertson. Resolutions included in your packet,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Questions, comments? Steve?
Todd, what's the process to establish need-based application, or I think you understand my question.
Yeah, you've asked a very broad question. So
Right.
there are a number of ways in which a family or child can demonstrate need in this
Okay.
instance. So let me give you one that you hear about and is quite common. If a child is eligible for free and reduced lunch, that gets them through the door. And there are 3 or 4 others that do that as well, but that's the criteria that's in place. We don't have separate criteria other than those, what I would call kind of best practice standards that we see in other communities, and including the school district. The funding that we see currently within this fund is primarily donations. However, in the past, dollars that were raised through the Halloween fund run would have been included in this funding source as well. And so we anticipate that this will pay for T-ball, and it will pay for swimming lessons, and those are the kind of things that we really see moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
So how much would an average scholarship be?
John, it will depend on the program
Of
that
course,
the
I mean,
students...
order of magnitude, we're talking about $10 or $15 or $150?
15 to 25.
15 to 25?
Right.
And how many a year are we expecting and intending or
This-
guessing?
This probably goes on for better than a decade, John.
The money lasts that long?
Yeah, with this amount of money, that will last probably that long.
So it is actually a legacy.
It really is, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Yep.
So how do people go about getting an application? Do they go to the rec, or do they come down?
It's through the rec, and it is something that we promote and advertise. There are other organizations in town, Human Services and others, that direct people our way when they have solicitations or they bump into folks that they provide service to. And so those are the 2 primary methods.
Okay.
I have just a question for the council. Does anyone here personally know? Did they personally know Mr. Gilbertson? Steve, you did?
Yep, I live next to Bud.
Oh, okay, that's,
Yep.
all right. I
Right.
heard the name, but I wasn't
Yeah,
quite
you
sure.
could talk to him about any kind of sport, and he could rattle off stuff that I didn't even know what he was talking about. So,
He was a big fan. A
He
Minnesota
always,
sports
yeah,
fan,
he
we
always walked
understand.
across the street and watched the young girls, young women play fast pitch. He was always over there watching that. Yeah.
Yeah, his nephew did talk about him loving to be at Gorman Park and watching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time at the track in the community center as well.
Right,
Walking
yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. He was an avid walker. So, yeah.
The resolution accepting donation from Lyle Bud Gilbertson Estate appears on page 95. Is there a motion for approval?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Pfeiffer?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Harris?
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Mayor Zeman?
Aye.
Councilmember Corman?
Aye.
Resolution is approved, and again, thank you to the Gilbertsons family for thinking of us, but really do appreciate it. That concludes our new business. Next up, we have reports. I'm first up, and I don't have anything because I think everything I had was going to be talked about later. So, Todd, I'll let you and Pete take over from here.
We'll cut to the chase. First of all, I want to mention that Labor Day is coming up, and so all city offices that are non-emergency offices will be closed on Monday, September 2nd. The community center, library, and you can see the list up here, and they're included in the hot sheet that articulates that a little bit more clearly. I also want to mention that MRVT, transit in town, will not operate on Labor Day either. The next one that I have is Rivers Edge Hospital VA authorized provider designation. That was announced previously and was talked about at the picnic last week up at Rivers Edge. What a wonderful thing for veterans to be able to go to urgent care here and receive those types of services right in St. Peter without having to go to the metro or out of town. So a wonderful thing that's gone on in relation to the hospital. I think that was approved about a month ago, give or take a little bit. And so we did want to mention that for folks to take advantage of and know the value of that within our community and for our veterans. Next, pavilion update. Pete is kind of our point person on timeline and activities related to the pavilion. So Pete, if you wouldn't mind, golly, it's looking really good.
Yeah, a lot of activities have been completed. We're about 99% done. Rain slowed us down a little bit today, but they're doing some land leveling, concrete's poured, a couple odds and ends inside just to finish up. They should have those done by Thursday. We're hoping to see sod in the front area rolled and watered and ready to roll by Thursday, Friday, somewhere in that neighborhood. One window yet to go. We had a small mishap with one of the windows, and that'll be replaced here hopefully Monday, Tuesday of next week, and everything should go as planned. They're moving everything towards the Elm Street side and starting to clean up. You'll probably see the fence removed by the end of the week here, and we'll be ready to roll for Rock Bend. We'll also be working with the gas company to try to get as much of the boulevard restored on College Avenue side. As you guys know, there's been quite a bit of work done there, and there's a lot of work to be completed there to reestablish things and get things moving for the Rock Bend.
Yeah. Talking about that, glad you're here. The sidewalks. I would think that, when I see kids going to and from school, Jefferson gets used a lot, and boy, those sidewalks are. Unless they've did something today, they're just absolutely
they're
torn
in
up.
pretty tough shape here yet, so we'll be working with them to get restoration done as quickly as we can, especially along the school roads.
Yeah. Good on the pavilion, boy.
Yeah.
Pretty much on schedule.
Yep.
They are. Our general contractor has done a nice job. R.W. Carlstrom has done an excellent job on making sure that things are done in a timely fashion and managing our project really well.
All right.
Next one that I have, I'm going to turn over to Pete again. Seal coating. Man, seal coating seemed like it went just lickety-split this time, Pete.
It did. Well, we've got a street crew that knows how to do their work, and they had things coordinated and ready to roll. They got 116 blocks done. We're right in the neighborhood of where we thought we'd be with not only the cost, but the application. We're in the process now of picking up. The rain, while it did slow the pavilion down, helped us out quite a bit with the dust. We're just getting to the dust portion of the seal coating, so we saw quite a bit of that calm down today. Guys are sweeping Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. They'll be out picking up rock again. Probably saw them in several of your neighborhoods this week, and hopefully we can get that accomplished and another major project off the records for us. We will be doing trail sealing still somewhere between the 3rd and 10th of September, no later start than that. So you'll see crews working on parks, so look for the signs. We'll have about a day period where we need people off the trail so we can sweep and get our contractor in here again to put a seal coat on top of that.
So Pete, when we seal coat streets or the trails for that matter, what's that for? What does that do for the
Really
roads?
just to seal the surface, to keep the water from penetrating in and causing additional damage. And as you can see now, it's done a real nice job with the streets we're in. Program's working really well on getting longer life on what we're doing here. What you'll see on the streets compared to the trails is you'll see rock on the streets. You won't see that rock on the trails. It'll be more of an oil that goes down and seals that up. We've already done the crack sealing, so it's more of a coating that goes over that.
Talked to some people last night new to St. Peter, and they said, wow, that was really kind of efficient, and you know, they were quite pleased at how
Did a
quick
nice
it went.
job. Yep, Pearson did a nice job for us.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Pete. Mr. Mayor, I do have one more item that I want to mention. If I could, Mayor and members, I do want to mention the offer for folks to participate in the Citizens Academy. There's a few more days left to sign up. If we can't get to that 10-12 threshold, the plan has been not to hold it. It's frankly a lot of work and effort and energy for 2 or 3 or 4 people. So the threshold that we set was 12, I believe. And so people have a few more days to email and contact us. Should we go forward, the first class of that, the first evening of that will be on September 11th. And so it's been in the hot sheet. We've promoted it in a number of different ways. We've talked about it on video blogs, and so if we get some more, we'll go forward. If not, well, then we won't. We'll make sure to let you know that as well.
Yeah, the other thing which Todd and I talked about before the meeting was the RETA meeting. I don't know if anybody, Steve, I think you're going, and I'll be going. I don't know if anybody else, John, you're going. I think the sign up is ending here pretty quick, isn't it?
Yeah, in the next few days, John. Do you need us to sign you up? Okay, we'll get you signed up.
All right.
Anyone else? Okay.
Anyone else have anything to add?
Get to eat?
Pardon me?
Where do I get to eat?
I don't remember what it is, John.
You have to go on the website.
Vegetarian?
I don't remember what it
There
is.
is one, do you want to?
Sign me up for the vegetarian.
Okay. All right.
Anyone else have anything to add? Steve?
I just have a question, and you know, I mentioned this to you, Mr. Paskey, before, but if people are dissatisfied with the new seating that's been going on from CenterPoint Energy's crews, their subcontractors, regarding the grass that they put in, is there some number that people can call and to complain and voice their opinions about what's being planted? You know?
Yes, so certainly they can contact us at Public Works, and we'll try and work more directly with the contractor. Steve, there is an 800 number. I'm sorry I don't remember that off the top of my head, but we'll make sure to send that out to council members as well. But there is an 800 number that you can talk to someone in the metro area. We've been pretty effective in coaxing them along, I think. Amy Cam does a great job with them and the rest of Pete's crew and kind of pushing that along. But it has been messy and ugly and all over the place. There's no doubt about it. It's important work that those crews are doing for safety. The replacement of those mains is very important, but it has been messy and there have been spots missed, and so we're trying to do what we can to help them along.
So if you could send that 800 number out, that I could
Yeah.
share that with people that have voiced concerns.
Be happy to.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
All in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.